This video shows a simple way that I used to provide 24 volts to my Ring doorbell. I converted my modular or integrated doorbell to house a transformer that would provide 24 volts to my Ring. If you're not working with a modular or integrated doorbell, there's some useful information in this video for you as well. Because I didn't want to cut any holes in my walls or run any new cables, I turned this into a benchtop activity. Providing an inductive load to prevent damage to the Ring doorbell, the mechanical ringer also provides a backup audible sound in case we are home and the Wi-Fi is down. The last couple of minutes of this video discuss connecting a new or existing remote portable doorbell. Please watch this entire video before you decide to take on the project, and I hope it works out well for you. Ow! I should have stayed in college. You won't actually see me moving around or acting in this video because all my life I've been told I have the perfect face for radio. Anyway, it's time to get serious about this project. The problem is that Ring doorbells require 24 volts to keep them charged, but a modular doorbell only provides about 8 volts. So my solution, I'm going to modify my modular doorbell. Modular or integrated doorbells are a great solution for new builds. The package usually includes everything you need to do the installation, including the bell itself, the button, and the cable. The bell unit houses the chime bars, the solenoid plunger to activate the sound, and the transformer. When installing my Ring doorbell, I followed their instructions exactly, connecting the wires from the old doorbell to the Ring doorbell. 2 or 3 days later, my app showed that my battery level had gone from 100 to 86%. I knew I needed to do something, and I didn't want to buy another battery, and I didn't want to have to swap them out every couple of weeks. A few hours after making the modification shown in this video, my app showed that my battery level was at 100%. Depending on which app I'm using, the battery level is shown as either 100% or it's shown as very good. You will need the wiring to be intact between the doorbell button and the modular doorbell. The parts list begins with some very basic items. If you have any issues with these or you're not really sure what they are or how to use them, maybe you should consider hiring a professional. Hopefully, I've included enough information in this list of main components in order for you to find exactly what you need for your project. The transformer I selected is physically large, but there's a good reason for it. Transformers generate heat, and this one will be confined in a very small space. And since its distance from the Ring doorbell is less than 10 meters, I know it's not going to get warm enough to cause any damage. I also checked the dimensions of everything to make sure that I could make it fit. It really sucks when you buy a transformer that's too big for the enclosure. These are the components for the optional remote or garden doorbell. So here are the tools I used to get the job done. I've included safety goggles just as a reminder. We need to protect our eyes. This diagram shows the connections between the transformer, the Ring video doorbell, and the wired doorbell. I don't show in this video how to connect the wiring from point to point, so please, if you don't understand this diagram, stop. Step 1. Electrical safety. Shut off the power and check to make sure it's been disconnected before you begin. We sometimes get into a hurry and we forget. And then guess what happens? Step 2 begins by removing the battery pack from your Ring doorbell. Then disconnect the wiring from your Ring and put the doorbell in a safe place. Remove the cover from the modular integrated doorbell, and then take note of all of the wires and how they're routed into the doorbell base. Disconnect the wiring from the components inside the base. It might be a good idea to tape up the ends, just in case. Then remove the base from the wall. If your remote or garden bell is connected, please make sure it's disconnected properly as well. Next, remove all the components from the base. Be careful and don't damage the base or the cover. You might need a screwdriver to snap the parts out of their retaining tabs. Lay the new transformer into the base and find the best location, avoiding the retaining brackets for the cover. When positioning the transformer, also make sure that it will not cover the base mounting holes. My transformer covered the bottom of the slotted hole at the top of my base, but that didn't matter because the screw only goes in at the top. When you have the transformer settled in a good place, use a felt tip to outline where the transformer will sit. Then use the felt tip to mark everything that needs to be removed in order for the transformer to lay flat. You might have a different method, but I used a Dremel tool with a cutoff wheel, just simply because I could do it gently without causing undue damage. During the process of creating the opening for the transformer, keep checking to make sure that the cover snaps into place. I used my trim knife to carefully cut or scrape out the shavings and the bits of melted plastic. I kept hacking away until the transformer fit nice and tight into the slot that I had created. Don't worry if it wobbles around a little bit. The important thing is that it lays flat and that you can snap the cover shut. You'll be fastening it down with a cable tie later. Keep at it patiently, and if you need to, look for other obstacles, such as I found inside my cover, where I needed to grind down the channels designed for the molding process. After my transformer was snug like a bug in a rug, I decided to install the chimes, not because they're going to work or do anything. I just wanted to cover those openings, so strictly for aesthetics. Simple things aren't always easy, so I'm going to give first-time cable tie users a few seconds to read this. If you're not connecting an audible ringer, as described earlier in this video, you can ignore references to it. But do not connect your transformer directly to your Ring doorbell without an inductive load. Study the instructions carefully Make sure that any other components, such as diodes, are included in your assembly. Before continuing, I tested the audible ringer. I used the opportunity to align the bell with the plunger. Make sure you do this safely. Hopefully by now you will have decided where you're going to install your ringer. I put mine on the top of the cover because, again, I didn't want to cut any new holes in my wall. After finding the best location for the ringer, I marked and drilled the holes. Then I pulled the wires through and fastened the ringer to the cover. Cut the wiring to manageable lengths and connect to the terminals. Make sure to label everything for future reference. I connected my ringer to the terminals just because now it was a convenient time. I used my old doorbell button to make sure that the wiring inside the box was correct. Use a cable tie to fasten the transformer to the base. Make sure that the cable tie latch does not interfere with the cover or the mounting of the base itself against the wall. I chose to position the cable tie latch on the back side of the base. I removed all of the testing wiring and checked to make sure that all the terminals were good and tight and safe. Then I tucked in all the wiring into the box just to make sure that everything fits nice and tight and that the cover snaps into place. Make sure that all of the wires are pulled through their original openings before securing the base to the wall. Double check that you've pulled in the incoming power and the doorbell button wires. Next, connect all the external wiring to the terminals as shown in this diagram. If you're connecting a new wireless remote bell link, please watch the last part of this video first. After making and checking the terminal connections, I then reconnected my Ring doorbell. There's no need to worry about cross-connecting the wires to the Ring doorbell because we're working with AC and not DC. I then refastened the Ring doorbell and reinstalled the battery pack. Then I tested everything by pressing the Ring doorbell button. I'll show you my clip in a few seconds, but this is what you should hear. The ringer will sound as long as the button is pressed. If connected, your phone or PC will send you a notification. And if connected, the ring chimes. The location of my remote link is also shown in this clip. I positioned my ringer so that it would hide the remote bell link. After checking all the connections, I tucked everything back into the box and snapped it shut. This part of my project is now complete. If you're interested in how I reconnected my remote garden bell, please watch the last few minutes of this video. Before starting this project, my remote doorbell link was connected to my modular doorbell, which provided 8 volts AC. That also met the requirements shown in the link instructions. Now it works just as well, without any additional components, because it's connected in parallel with a ringer. Don't connect a remote doorbell link directly to a 24-volt transformer unless it's rated for 24 volts AC. This diagram shows how I connected the remote link in parallel with a 24-volt ringer. Switch on the power and test everything by pressing your Ring Doorbell button. You should hear the audible ringer while the button is pressed. You should also hear the continuing ring from your Ring Doorbell and receive a notification on your smartphone if it's connected. And if you have any remote ring chimes, you should hear them as well. And most important, you should hear the garden bell. It took several attempts for me to get this clip right in order to record everything. Each time I practiced running from the entryway to the garage. I hope you found this video helpful.